right, we're live. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. We were having some trouble getting the live streaming software to go up to YouTube. I haven't had problems with this my entire career of being on here, and finally we get a guest to Skype on, and it's causing problems. So we're gonna give him a call here, see if we can get this set up. So let me do my intro. Hey, you there?
Okay.
I think we got the stream going, so I'm gonna just intro it here. I know we're already streaming, but we'll get it set up and started. So, all right, cool.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. So today, sorry for the late start, but we have a guest on the stream, so I'm not going to stick around too much just on the face cam here, but we have a YouTuber by the name of Mike from the Useless Duck Company here to talk about driverless cars. So I'm going to get the screen switched over so you can see him. And so, how's it going, Mike?
It's going okay. How are you?
So we have he's actually on his cell phone right now. We were having some trouble getting picture to the screen, and everything seemed to be going wrong. But it looks like we're finally live. Um, so you wanted to talk about driverless cars for us. So I guess you can introduce the topic, and then we'll just get into a general discussion.
Yeah, so what I wanted to discuss with you, there's a lot of hype around driverless cars, and people are saying, oh, all the truck drivers are going to lose their jobs in a year or two or something like that. Everything's going to be turned on its head. I don't think driverless cars are actually that close. I don't think the technology is as close as the marketing is telling everybody that it is. I feel that to have a true driverless car, first you need almost perfect humanoid AI. You almost need to create a computer human that can think like a human before you'll actually get that car on the road working as you expect, or at least before you could take the steering wheel away. And there's a few reasons why I feel that way. Are you on, what side are you on? Are you on that camp, or do you think that they're pretty close?
Well, it's to my understanding that with the artificial intelligence department and with all of the research we're doing currently, the art of moving from point A to point B and avoiding obstacles, I'm under the understanding that the technology is actually there, but there is a lot of intricacies that you can't plan for, and they always say that human randomness is something that you can't program or can't account for statistically. So I agree that there is definitely always going to be some problems that are coming along with driverless cars, but I do think that the technology, at least for major control over the vehicle, is available in the current day and age.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that I have a 2015 Chrysler 200, and I bought the one with the most important thing to me was the tech package because I wanted the self-driving features. Now it's not doesn't self-drive like a Tesla
Yeah.
or anything like that, but it has things like the radar cruise control. So once I get on the highway, I set a maximum speed, and if the person in front of me slows down or something, my car slows down
Okay.
automatically based on the radar. I can track people on the road. And it has some form of steering assist. If I start to go out of my lane, it'll steer me back in, but it won't steer me through the middle or anything like that.
Hmm.
And it has a feature to park itself, but it's really terrible. It's really bad at parking itself. It's really doesn't work at all. So I definitely think the technology is here to really assist people, to keep
Yeah.
people safer. But I have had a lot of false positives, or you could say false negatives, while driving. I had a few times where it's tracking the lane, and construction has the lane like go all wacky, and it tries to drive me into a wall or
Oh, I
something
got
like
you.
that. luckily the where that technology is right now is it's not a full override. It's kind of feels like a magnetic kind of pulse trying to move your wheel, but I can easily overpower it as long as I'm holding it.
Yeah.
But if I was hands off, that thing would have tried to put me into the wall,
Hmm.
something like that. So I think that's why there was a study done by Kelly Blue Book, and they were asking people if they're ready for driverless cars and if they want one. And actually, a majority of Americans, at least, they only did the states, said they didn't want it right now. They felt they would feel unsafe if they didn't have full control over the vehicle, which might
That's
not be a
actually one of the
problem.
notes I was writing down. Was I was
Yeah.
comparing it to airplanes because a lot of people have that a fear of flying because
Hmm.
they aren't in control of the vehicle. So there's statistics in the favor of airplanes versus car crashes.
Yeah.
Airplanes, there's a lot less deaths in airplanes than there are in car crashes every single year. But one thing psychologically is that people tend to want to be in direct control of their own fate. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that either people will have to change or the like you said, the technology may never be accepted because of that.
Well, that brings up that you can kind of mesh that with one of the other big arguments about auto driving cars, which is about ethics.
Yeah.
So if if it's going down the highway or it's going down a busy road, and someone like a drunk person or a kid, like a drunk person, runs into the street,
Mm.
your car has to choose what to do. If it doesn't have enough time to stop, does it go onto the shoulder where there's some mothers like walking their babies? Does it hit the person that walked into the street, or does it swerve to the left and hit the oncoming traffic?
Yeah, I think there
Now
was
you could,
actually a game, or it was sort of like a little like quiz online someone made that was a bunch of scenarios that you had to pick what the automatic car would do.
yeah.
Where it was
Oh, I
like,
think I saw that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had to choose between like killing the old people or killing the children, and it's like, how do you program that um, to where,
Well, I think if I go back to your earlier point about being on the airplane, though, if you were in a horrible accident and you weren't the driver, there's no steering wheel in your car, you'd feel so powerless because your car did this to you, basically. It drove
yeah,
you into this
yeah,
accident. But one perspective I don't think people think about a lot is what about the person that ran into the road? They're also powerless in this situation. They know that no human hit them, but the computer controlling this car hit them.
yeah,
And it's almost like in a Terminator movie. Why did this machine gun me down?
yeah, yeah.
You know, it would be machines versus humans sort of at that point, and it's something that people would have to accept.
And I think that also brings up the problem of the legal issue. If someone were to be in a driverless car that um, happened to be in a circumstance where it hit someone and killed them, would the person that owned the driverless car be at fault, or would it be the company that created it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's something that would be heavily debated with uh, just the legality in general because it comes down to like it's technically that person's property. It's somewhat like if a dog attacks a child down the street and
Hmm.
you're the owner of the dog, are you at fault or is the dog at fault? And um, it's a kind of gray area in the legal system.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that ever came up with airlines. If there's a horrible crash and they go, well, the autopilot was on. You know, it's the autopilot company that developed that, not us. You
Yeah,
know,
and I'm
it's
sure if
interesting.
if in airplanes, if the diagnostics can boil it down to some malfunction in the autopilot, they could definitely hold uh, the programmer or the creator of that program uh, liable for that.
Hmm.
Although I haven't seen any cases of that.
Hmm. Now, another thing that makes me think that they're a little further away than we'd expect. When people envision driverless cars, to me, they're kind of thinking about highway driving, like getting from point A to point B across the
Yeah.
highway from these two exits. Now, that's something that I think, could happen with 18-wheelers. They could start replacing 18-wheeler drivers. Like the driver just drives them to the launch point and then
Hmm.
jumps out, and then it drives itself across the country, and some other driver jumps in and drives it to the loading dock
That makes
or
sense.
something like
Yeah.
that. But is it if you were to actually take passenger cars and remove the steering wheels completely, how would you do something like launch a boat in the water? or because that's something I'm up in Northern Ontario. I'm not that well. I mean, I'm in Toronto right now, but my family lives up north, and you got to do stuff off road. You got to do stuff driving through the forest. You got to put a boat in the water, take a
Of
boat out of
course.
the water. I don't know how a car, like they couldn't even get a car without a steering wheel. How would they do that type of stuff? So I
Yeah.
don't even think it would be applicable to everybody.
And I think it might end up being something where how we have manual cars and automatic cars today. The manual cars are still there because there are the people who like the control over when the car shifts and whether they need to be in a lower gear going uphill and whatnot. There's some things where the programming isn't as clean cut as a human driver, where you can be a little bit more fuel efficient. So I think that it may be a situation where if we do see a lot more autonomous vehicles in the future, they won't completely overrun the human aspect where the quick time decision making and the less specialization is available.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it would probably be a hybrid, like in that movie I, Robot, where everyone's driving around in their automatic driverless cars, but then Will Smith, he feels like he wants to drive manual, so a steering wheel suddenly appears. But he gets chastised by his boss later, like, "What are you doing driving manual on the highway? Are you insane?"
yeah,
But maybe that option will still be there if you ever
yeah.
want to take that.
And I think it might be something where it's like we have emergency brakes. There's always going to be a backup if something fails. So I think that it's important to keep a backup system, even if it's a very uh, rough looking tiny little wheel. If it's something that can pop out and just in a quick second decision uh, let the human take control, that
Mm-hmm.
would definitely be an important feature. One thing I did want to mention is I do see this with autonomous vehicles being very um, useful in public transport.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of like how airplanes can pretty much fly themselves once they're in the air from point A to point B. I think that on a monotonous path, perhaps one that is restricted for autonomous vehicles, um, I could see this being a viable option for getting people from point A to point B because one of the things that we keep bringing up is what if someone runs out into the road and what if there's a situation that they weren't expecting. But a lot of the things that come up with these situations are due to the fact that this is a maybe like a residential area or a situation where people could readily walk out onto the road. If we had a situation where there was a highway that was only autonomous vehicles, and perhaps there was like a bus stop kind of situation where you could get onto a vehicle and it would take you somewhere, and that could even be like a private vehicle, but it would have to meet you there at the bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that as a viable option for long distance transport of people, perhaps in a slightly more luxurious uh, environment than a bus or a train. Um, but at the same time, still only communicating with other autonomous vehicles in order to get a person from one point to another in a very efficient, timely manner.
Yeah, I read somewhere, I think it was just a rumor that Elon Musk might be working on something like that, a special highway system just for like Teslas that could drive themselves or
Mm,
other autonomous cars. So they would have their own lane. And that would really be fantastic because that's one of the big deterrents for me from taking the train or the bus or something is I like when you get your own private bubble, you can
yeah.
set the music that you like and you're kind of on your own and then you appear right at work. You don't have to walk from a station. It's that last mile problem. So
Mm,
the autonomous vehicle could just stop, drop you off right there, and
yeah.
then you wouldn't have to park it. It would go off and do its own thing, which
Yeah.
would be pretty great.
And I definitely think in especially with monotonous paths, this is where the autonomous vehicles really thrive because one example, I live down in Orlando, so I'm right next to Universal. And do you know Universal Studios?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I
Okay.
went to Harry Potter World and all that.
Oh yeah, my girlfriend and her sister actually work there, but
Okay.
they have a new attraction called the Kong ride. It's sort of like a safari thing where you're in this this like big long Jeep with a bunch of other people, and the cool thing is there's no tracks. It actually drives itself through the ride, and
Oh, cool.
there's
I would
times
figure there'd be a
where
rail or something.
yeah, there's times where the vehicle is locked in and the actual room itself is moving, but for the most part, the vehicle itself is driving along the path. And so what's nice about the technology is that you can really get something to be driving on its own as long as the if the path is the same every time, then the vehicle will have no problem with making the judgment calls in order to do that because there's a lot more processing that's devoted towards like quick time decisions as opposed to where it's going and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I guess if there's any questions in the chat, we can have those. I'll give a few more minutes in case anybody wants to bring anything up. But is there any uh, closing points you want to make on the topic?
No, it's just that I think that you could have this vehicle that'll move between A and B on something like a highway or a road that's separated just for autonomous vehicles. But until first to get to the point where all vehicles have no steering wheel and it could do things like drive on top of snow,
Yeah.
launch a boat, go onto the shoulder, go off-roading if I needed to, I think really robust AI would have to be developed, and I think we're still pretty far away from that.
Yeah, or at least a specialized vehicle for those specific individual situations wouldn't be necessary, as
Yeah,
opposed to all-in-one like truck that can get anywhere you need it to. I definitely
yeah,
think one last point that I forgot to mention. I definitely think there is somewhat of a news bias in reporting problems with autonomous vehicles as
oh for
opposed
sure.
to regular vehicles because um, I know there was a problem last year where a Tesla sideswiped a semi on the highway,
Mhm.
and they were it went everywhere on the news because it's new technology. But then I always have to step back and think, well, okay, how many people that are just normally driving sideswipe semis on the highway? Um,
Mhm.
and I don't have the statistics on that, but I think it's something similar to how there's this fear of airplanes and everything because when one does actually crash, everybody knows about it. And with vehicles,
Yeah,
you don't really know the danger because there's such a necessity in life that people tend to shy away from saying, "Oh, don't use your car because it's a death trap that statistically you're probably going to crash at some point." And
mhm.
so I think that my point is that there definitely is some significant problems with the technology being introduced, and it's important to find a safe way to introduce the technology. But at the same time, I do think that in general the technology is here, and I would agree with you on the point that human control needs to be always an option in the case of a quick time event.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I think we can probably move on to the next section. But if you have any questions at any point in time for me or Mike, uh, feel free to leave them in the chat and we will be sure to answer them. So I'm going to switch the screen over. I mentioned that we have a stock market competition going on the channel here.
Mhm.
So I'm going to pull that up and it looks like my window is slightly different in this. Let me see if I can.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can angle my head in the stream, so I'm like
Oh
looking
yeah,
down
no,
at it.
I think
Yeah,
I
there
can
it is. I
fix
see
this
it.
by just going back to the original scene and then switching what is in the middle. I
Okay.
tried to make it simple on myself, and then I didn't set up the other window. Okay, there we go. So um, this is the leaderboard, and I'm not sure if you can see it yet on the screen. Yeah, you can. Um,
Well, I think my camera got like I'm sinking here. I'm
oh yeah,
sinking in
no,
my
there.
box, I think.
It'll be fixed in a second.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The problem was I had two different scenes set up, and then I only fixed
Oh,
the
okay.
camera in the one.
Yeah.
Um,
This is actually a really perfect setup because my computer monitor is right here, and when I I turn to look at my monitor, it looks like I'm looking down at the insert in the middle. Like, this is
Oh yeah,
perfect.
yeah. That's cool. I'd have to look
Like, we
to
got a
the
chart right
wrong
there.
side to look at you.
Oh yeah,
But so this is the current competition, and you might hear my dog barking in the background. This
that's
is the
okay.
current competition, and so the way it works is we start out. I'm just gonna put you in as Mike, unless there's a different name you want to go by in the
Oh,
stock
oh,
competition.
Mike is fine.
So you're gonna start out with 100,000 Jonos. It's a very
Okay,
generous
good.
starting offer, and so we can go over and check out the values. Now this will take a second to pop up on your screen, but
Hmm.
currently red is at an all-time low of 61 Jonos. Yellow is about an even 108 Jonos. Green is now at 128 Jonos, and blue is skyrocketing up to 255 Jonos in value.
Hmm.
Now, I'll show you the historic data that will come up in a second. I just have a graph of how the stock have been doing over time, so you can get a picture of what the votes have been doing. Um, it actually just updated this Thursday. I updated the stock market to its current state with the voting. For people who don't know how this works, on my midweek streams, I tally up the votes from the previous midweek stream, and I look at the percentages, and those percentages are what fluctuate the different prices of the stock market. So you should be able to see the graph here. Blue started out dropping, went crazy ever since. Green has sort of gone on a upward spike and then back down. Yellow's bounced around in the middle, and red started by going up but has been going down ever since. So
Hmm.
um, I'll give you that information to work with, but I guess at this point I can ask you what stock you would like to purchase, if any. Um,
Okay. Can I get more than one, or I only buy one stock?
oh no, you can buy any proportion you want with the amount of money you have available.
Okay. Now this is a tough choice for me because I learned the hard way when I bought some bitcoins about how bubbles work, even though they're back up in value actually.
Yeah.
So I've actually almost broken even on that, except for I put a lot of money into Doge coins
Oh
because I was
yeah.
mining them, which was fun but kind of silly. Um, so can you go back to the graph? Actually, I'm looking at the
Oh yeah,
Excel
yeah.
chart
It'll take a few
now.
seconds, but
That's okay. So and now, so normally I wouldn't want to go for the thing that's skyrocketing because the lessons I've learned in the past. But at the same time, I've learned that I mean this is based on popularity. People are making choices and they could see the graph, and people
yeah.
might want to pile on to the more popular thing. And I can't short sell a stock, I guess.
I mean, if you
So
wanted to week by week, you could let me know, but
yeah,
it'd probably be a little tedious.
I think what I'm gonna do for now is I'm gonna put half of my equity into yellow.
Into yellow?
That's what I'm going to do. And can I
Okay.
hold the rest in the bank? I can just hold on to
Yeah,
the
you
rest
can
of
do
it for
that.
now.
You can
Okay.
see when it switches back to the scoreboard, my girlfriend Megan at the top here has actually done exactly that, except with blue, but she bought in
Okay.
right before it skyrocketed, and
Oh, it's
she's doing pretty
wise.
well for herself. So
Yeah,
so you want to spend approximately 50,000 Jonos on yellow?
that is correct.
Okay, so we'll see how many times you can get, how many stock you can get with that. So the value of yellow right now is 108. You can get 462 yellow stock without busting 50,000. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll put 462, and then we're going to have to subtract the value of that. So 462 times 108 is 49,896. So 50,000 minus that, or sorry, 100,000 minus this value is going to be 50,104 left. So 50,104, and I'll get it set up so that this. Actually, I might be able to just drag this guy down, so you can see the value of your stock. You'll be able to see on the screen in a second. Is still adding up to exactly 100,000. But
Okay,
with the
great.
weeks to come, as the prices fluctuate, we should be able to see how that goes. So if you're watching the stream now, or if you're watching this later, not live, you can go over to my previous video. There is a poll up in the corner. I can actually link that for the people who are watching this not live on a card up in the corner, and you'll be able to vote for the stock you wish. So if you want to support Mike here, you can vote for yellow, but you can vote however you want. So we have that all settled, and we just have our final section, which is a tradition on the Jono Explains Things channel. Whenever I have a guest on the stream, I have a section I like to call Out of Your Element. Now, I did explain this a little bit to you, but I'll give another explanation just because I haven't had a guest on in a little while. Essentially, what this section is it's a sort of it's a question to keep you on your toes in a sense. So now, Mike, you are very astute in creating machines in order to fulfill a task. That's essentially what you do on your channel. Is that correct?
That's right. That's correct.
And so I was watching your stream the other day, and everybody was giving these suggestions on what machines you would be able to make, and just on the fly, you were pretty good at just picking out what kind of things you would need to do in order to make that a reality. So that gave me the idea to keep within that range of thinking, but at the same time, sort of go a little left field with the actual creation. So
Okay.
I'm gonna give a little backstory here, and then I'll let you just have at it. So just imagine that we are going back in time, and you are bringing a message to a village, and so that's the scene we're going with. And so you are going up to the village, and you notice that the village is up on a hill, but alas, you have a bad knee from when you had to take care of Sancho's yak. So
Those are
I'm
hard times.
asking you to build a machine that can bring this message to the village that is on top of the hill. The materials you have available for you are apple trees that have apples on them, leather, dirt, mallards, rocks that when you smack them together spark. There's randomly some oil pits, and you also have whatever Crocs are made out of. The shoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, not an actual crocodile. What it's made out
Oh
of, which
no
is
no no. So
crocodile, like
so
the shoe.
whatever those waterproof boat shoes are made out of.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But
while
I also
you're
have mallards, so I have birds.
yeah.
I have
So
access to. Okay.
yeah. So I'm going to be giving a visual representation of whatever you're coming up with here, and then you can let your
Oh man.
imagination have at it.
Okay, I should have written down that parts list.
I can write it down on the screen. It'll show up in a second. So
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
apple trees, leather, dirt, rocks, mallards, oil, and Crocs. But it's more the material that is used for Crocs, if that's more convenient.
Okay. Let me think about this for a second here. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, because you said I could make sparks, is I'm going to take some of the oil into like a puddle, and I'm going to light it on fire. Okay?
Okay.
Now I've got the oil on fire. I'm going to take the mallards. I'm going to place them over the fire until they start to smell like they're edible.
Okay.
Now maybe I'll feather them first or something. So I'm going to cook the mallards. I'm then going to eat the mallards to give me the energy I need for the next part because it's going to be very physically taxing. So we've gotten that far. So I've eaten the mallards. Next, what I'm going to do is now I don't have to give them a message, but I don't know how long the message is.
Yeah,
What I'm going to
I
do,
guess you could say that you have the message on a piece of paper, but if you want to try and send them the message in a different way without paper, that's fine.
oh, okay. Okay, that changes it a bit because I was going to chew the message into apples, one separate character per apple.
Okay.
But if I have it on a piece of paper, then what I'll probably do is make a pouch out of some of the material that Crocs are made out of. I don't know what the material is called, but
You
it
say
brings
a
shame to a
pouch?
lot of people. Yeah.
A pouch. Okay.
Okay, so let me take a look at the drawing's a bit delayed, but I see that I'm eating the mallard, so that's good. Uh,
I've just drawn the pouch here. Um,
okay, good. So I'm going to make the pouch almost like a letter holder and put the message into the pouch. I'm then going to take the length of some of the leather, like a strip of the leather, and I'm going to tie a rock onto the end of it. And then I'm going to also tie my crock pouch to that. Now that I have that, then I'm going to add a very long, I don't know how much I have, but a very long strip of leather. So basically I have a weight with a message at the end of a rope. And I'm going to do one of those ninja things where I got to like spin it around above my head,
okay, so you're
like
saying
I'm
that
throwing some kind of a
the leather
grappling
strip
hook or something.
is fairly long. There's a rock on one end and the pouch on the other. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
No, well, the pouch can be near the rock.
Okay.
I kind of want it with that center of mass.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It's going to be protected and waterproofed by my crock. I'm then going to, like a grappling hook, spin it around above my head. Now, normally, for a hill this size, being my nerdy self who plays with electronics, I don't have the strength for this. But with the power of the mallard that I ate, that tasted a bit like oil, which is probably not healthy for me, I will toss it up to the village so that they can receive this message.
Okay.
And
That
that's it. That's
sounds
the problem solved.
that sounds like a problem solved to me. And
Yeah.
there's a interestingly suburban looking village up at the top, but that that sounds like it works. So that is all we have for today. I want to thank you for coming on. I know we had a lot of technical difficulties here at the start, but we finally got it to work. Um, so I'm going to leave a little icon at the end of this video that you can click on to go check out Mike's channel. I'm a big fan. I enjoy all of the creations
I appreciate that.
that he's creating, and the presentation is impeccable. Um, but yeah, so I want to thank you for coming on. I'm glad we finally got this working, and I think the discussion was pretty interesting. So
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was a lot of fun. There were some technical issues, I guess, but it was great. I enjoyed it. And I'm interested to see how much currency I gain from my stock
oh
choice.
yeah, I'll keep you updated if
Yeah.
you are moving up the ranks.
Okay, great. That's good news. That's good.
Okay. So I'm gonna sign off the stream here, but I want to thank you guys for watching if you have been, and so I should be streaming next Thursday with the midweek update where you can see how Mike has done with the stock market. But until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.